Hello, Sonoma County. Today I'll be talking with Sheba Person-Whitley, the Executive Director of Sonoma County Economic Development Board. The Development Board is focused on growing a healthy economy by helping our businesses in Sonoma County. Thank you, Sheba, for joining us this morning for this interview and being with me today. So the pressing question our community wants to know, what have you been doing to help us open up our businesses and our economy during this COVID pandemic?
Yes, thank you so much, Chair Gorin. Thank you for having me this morning. So, of course, the Economic Development Board, we always refer to ourselves as small but mighty because we only have 12 full-time people. Everyone is basically working 7 days a week, really working on short-term recovery planning as well as long-term recovery planning, doing business assistance. So we have people that are available on the phone, email, responding to calls, making sure people understand how to access resources, how to apply for grants, how to get technical assistance. With our short-term reopening, we put together a series of task forces. So those task forces came together over the weekend and started meeting yesterday to develop best management practices. Again, we know that we have very savvy business people out there. They want to be prepared to open, but they just needed a little bit of information on what are the parameters and what are the expectations that are coming out from public health. So we've shared that information. Those best management practices are really intended to be just that, an example of a best practice. It doesn't mean that if you are in a similar business that you have to do it that way, but it really is to provide a resource and some overall guidance about how do you think about social distancing, how do you think about sanitation, how do you think about changing your workflow in order to make sure that you have an environment that is really comfortable for your staff and comfortable for your consumers as they come back in. So all that work has taken place over the last couple of days. We hope to have those published by the end of the week. So we want to be, very transparent. We want to make sure that people have access to that information. It will be available in English and Spanish when it's launched on the website, hopefully by Friday. So that way businesses can really get to the business of doing what they do, right? They are going to be reopening. They are thinking about how do they mitigate, how do they do it in a safe way, how do they build their the staff confidence as well as their consumer confidence. So we've been working really, really hard on that. And in addition, I would just add that because we know that long-term recovery is really important, we are simultaneously looking at long-term strategic planning. What are the opportunities that we need to be leveraging as we move forward? Because we know we're looking at a recession. And so that's a different perspective that takes a different lens. And so we are working on both those things simultaneously.
And thank you. And I just want to assure the community that the board is absolutely focused on working with you and public health to make sure that we open our businesses and our economy as quickly as possible while protecting our public health. So could you help me understand how integral your conversations are with Dr. Mason, Director Robinson?
Yes, absolutely. We want to be that conduit, right? So our department, we are here to make sure that the county is a place that's conducive to do business. And the public health, they have a very important role, but it's through a different lens and through a different perspective. And so we are that conduit that connects the thoughts and the feelings and the sentiments and the priorities of the business community to the Department of Health so that they understand what those priorities are, they understand what the concerns are, and how we all come together to get back to exactly what you just described, reopening as fast and as safely as possible to make sure there's a great deal of confidence on both sides that we're all on the same page. So that's where we have a really critical role at EDB, is really being that conduit and being that feedback loop. I've been working very closely with Dr. Mace and Director Robinson to communicate the thoughts and feelings and sentiments and of the business community overall and make sure that they understand their perspective as well.
I know employees in the businesses that are going to reopen want to feel safe while they're resuming their business world, and they're so grateful to have jobs and go back to those jobs. But community members also would want to feel safe about entering a business. And so what can businesses do to help stop the spread of COVID-19 and help regain consumer confidence that they are safe places to patronize?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course we recognize businesses are very savvy. Everyone I think that has remained open or will be opening soon. They've done a really great job of kind of just altering the way they do things, right? So whether that meant taping off the floor, maybe that meant putting in plexiglass, thinking about how they create distance, how do they maybe have people work from home, for example, or maybe you have staggered entry into your shifts so that you could avoid overcrowding. How do you think about sanitation? So we've seen people, put in hand washing stations. They put in sanitizer stations. They made those things available. Some of them are putting in that PPE. So are they providing masks and gloves or some sort of facial covering and gloves to their staff? I think when you approach it from that perspective, you're really just thinking about how do you create distance, right? And how do you promote distance within your workspace? How do you think about sanitation? And then the other part of it is really being clear and thoughtful and clear communication with the staff, right? Because you want the staff to feel comfortable. You want them to feel that this is a comfortable work environment for me to enter into. And I think that's going to be critical as well. And I think everyone overall has embraced that and is really doing a good job of all those different things. And so those are the things that people are undertaking and have been undertaking in order to ensure that it is a comfortable environment. Our position at EDB is to put, again, all that information up online, make sure it's really transparent, make sure that everyone out here in the business community understands what the expectations are for the ensuring the health of your customers and your staff. So we want to put that up there, make sure that everyone has access to it.
We've been discussing an element of public health and employee protection of taking temperatures. A number of the healthcare providers now take the temperatures of employees before they're allowed to enter the building. Is this something that we're going to be working with our businesses to adopt?
Yes, so what we have received from Dr. Mace and Director Robinson is that they would like to have the temperature checking and taking be a part of that employee self-check process. And we do see that. I know that you have talked about that and Supervisor Zane has talked about that it is widely practiced, especially in the healthcare community already, that people have their temperature checks as they come into the workspace. And so that is an expectation that has been laid out. I know that the county is working to procure resources. We know that that could be a burden, right, for a lot of small businesses. How do they even access some of these things? How do they make sure that they're working with a reputable vendor that isn't going to price gouge them, for example, or isn't going to promise something and then not deliver? So through the County Emergency Operations Center and Health, they have procured the funding to purchase some of those to make them available. So I do think we have a responsibility, right? We have a responsibility as a county entity that if we are going to be asking our business community to take something on, that we try to make that as easy as possible for them to be able to do that.
And I know you never anticipated this protocol being part of business development, but here we are, we're all facing this together. Thank you for navigating through that and helping us to reopen our businesses safely. Sonoma County is known all across the nation and perhaps the globe as being, excuse me, Sonoma County is known, I have a tickle in my throat. We're going to edit that one out. Sonoma County is known for being innovative and creative. How can we use our innovation as part of the solution to reopening our businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. We've already seen some of that. So, we've heard from distilleries, for example, that have moved into making hand sanitizer. We've heard of different textile companies that have moved into making face coverings, for example. So we've already seen that really creative side, especially with PPE and sanitation and thinking about how to create a safe work environment. We've seen a lot of that creativity, people being really agile and taking advantage of those opportunities that have presented themselves. We also have seen people get really creative about social distancing. So whoever thought that we would have plexiglass, right, or tape on the floor and signs that provide one-way throughways for people to walk. We're also looking at things like, can we look at street closures, for example? If we want to promote distancing in retail shops and in restaurants, can people go out into the alleys to eat? Can we set up safe environments for them to do that? Can they do it on the sidewalk? Can we look at street closures and make those walkways, pedestrian walkways, as opposed to vehicle, to promote, again, that distancing and pedestrian lifestyle and get people into shops and make them feel comfortable and safe. So I think that's been a lot of the creative thinking that has gone into that, as well as e-commerce. We have heard from a lot of businesses who never thought that they would ever get into e-commerce and selling their products online. And they were quickly able to position themselves and find ways to do things in a different way, to sell to a brand new audience and brand new customers that they never were able to tap into historically. And we've seen a lot of this also with restaurants, right? Restaurants, a lot of them were really nimble and quickly adapted to curbside or door drop services. And those are things that they never had even contemplated before. So I do think that we have seen a great deal of creativity come out, and people really being nimble and being very thoughtful about, okay, if this is what we have to do, right, in order to be able to still have some sort of operation, how do I think about that from a business owner operator perspective and get creative on how I can position myself to take advantage of whatever opportunity might be available.
I know that SoCoEmergency.org lists a number of tools and resources for businesses, but we also have a link to the Economic Development Board. Could you describe what kind of tools and resources you have listed on your website and maybe give your website address?
Yes, it is SonomaEDB.org, SonomaEDB.org. So we have an entire resource recovery toolkit that's available. It's basically broken down by resource type. So if you're looking at federal resources, if you're looking at local resources, state resources, if you're looking at financial assistance, whether that be tapping into something like the CARES Act or even some local grant funding, all of that is there as well. We offer technical assistance. So for example, we partner with the Small Business Development Center to put on virtual technical assistance courses. So for example, it could be things like e-commerce, like how do you get into that if you've never done it before? How do you think about your online marketing, your social media boosting and platform if now you're entering into this new phase of normal and you don't have people coming into a physical brick and mortar store, you need to drive all that traffic over to your website, to your social media to capture new customers. So we're offering those type of technical classes as well. And we have, again, people that are there, that answer the phone, that respond to email inquiries, that help people navigate through everything that you could possibly think of. So we're here, we want to serve. That toolkit is pretty robust and it is updated as more and more resources become available. We update that information. There's also a link on there if you are an employee of a business that has been impacted due to COVID-19. So if you were looking at furlough or layoff or anything like that, there are also resources for the employee-facing perspective as well. So we are working aggressively to do what we can. We are here to serve. That is our purpose. That is our whole point. We know that people are suffering and they are hurting. And there's a great deal of anxiety and frustration. And we just want to be here to serve as a resource to the community.
And the Economic Development Board encompasses it actually is an umbrella of very diverse services to different kind of activities. Could you just briefly describe some of the activities and outreach efforts that EDB is engaged in?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a lot with business assistance, for example. So interestingly enough, Chair Gorin, there are still people who are reaching out, entrepreneurs and small business who actually want to start a business right now. So that's a big part of what we do, is that business assistance. If you are looking to start or locate a business here in Sonoma County, we help with site selection, we do market research, and everything we do is free. So that's a big part of what we do, responding to inquiries. If someone is already here and they're running into some sort of challenge, whether it be workforce or labor force. We work closely with our partners at WIB to pull those resources available together to make sure that our local employers know how to tap into some of those programs and resources. We have Creative Sonoma, which is a part of our division as well. They are explicitly working with the creative community and how to elevate the creative community and some of those nonprofits. We have broadband, interestingly enough, within our department. We know that there are major access issues throughout the county. When you're on the 101 corridor, connectivity is no problem. But once you venture out into those far-reaching corners of the county, whether it be east or west, connectivity becomes a major problem. And then that connectivity is everything to do with education, how you can apply for a job, and how can you access the things that you need to access. And so that is a huge concerted effort that our department takes on as well. We also have a business diversity program manager who is specifically dedicated to outreach to the Latino business community, as well as other underserved communities as well, to make sure that they have access and that they know how to tap into resources that are available. So we do a little bit of everything, and again, just here to serve and support.
Thank you, Sheba Person-Whitley, for your time here this morning. And please thank your staff for the incredible effort that they are putting into working with our business sectors and business leaders across Sonoma County, especially during this pandemic. We want to get our businesses open as safely and as quickly as possible. So we need to adopt the protocols to safely open those businesses and instill consumer confidence that, in fact, our local businesses are safe to enter. So it is a joint effort. We're very excited to be working through and with the Economic Development Board. This interview is part of my virtual report on COVID-19. Look for my virtual reports online at socoemergency.org and youtube.com/official Sonoma County. Thank you, Sheba, for your time here this morning.
Thank you, Chair Gorin. Thank you for all you're doing.